Does anyone doubt Bill's passion for his job? This guy is incredible. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, probably. Stick around. You have nothing better to do, right?
That's right.
Appropriation of LoSiP? Is that what you're on, Mr. Chairman?
We are on
Yep.
special appropriation LoSiP grant, $114,460.
You see a list of projects there. They add up to $238,000. LoSiP money is local capital improvement plan. It's funded by the state. We have to, it has to, these projects have to meet certain requirements, and these projects do. We have been approved in the annual capital plan, in the LoSiP plan for $123,540 in our current year's budget, and we have leftover LoSiP money, and this is what I spoke to you earlier, Celebrity, of $114,460 that were unused funds that we are able to carry over and move to this project. If you add those two figures together, it's $238,000. That's the amount that these generators, the gas conversion of the East Lyme Library building. We're going to spend some money on architect to evaluate the use of buildings in this town. That's all they're going to do. You're not going to get much for $45,000 in an architect, but he's going to take a look at this building and say, could it be a police station? Look at Lily B, because that's the current school plan. We're going to go with that plan until we know otherwise. Would that make an appropriate town hall? Or would the police station go there and keep the town hall here, which has been also talked about? So we want to know how to best use our buildings and what makes sense. So that's what that $45,000 is for. And as you know, the town hall has a horrible HVAC system. We're going to put an energy efficient controls in, which is half the problem we've had is an electronic issue, and seal town brick block buildings for $8,000. So that motion is needed, and I'm here to answer some questions if necessary.
Mr. Kelly?
Move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $114,460 to budget account 0130-317-500-100 LoSiP and revenue account 0103-300-320 local capital improvement to complete project consistent with the capital improvement plan.
Second.
Do we have any discussion or questions for the first selectman on the motion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Our next item is the special appropriation increase 1516 MRSA and town aid road grants.
So we as you can see by the narrative, I think you get the same narrative that I get, and that is during the process we weren't sure where the state budget was going to end up, so we aimed low, because that's what we typically do in this town, is taking a conservative fiscal approach to things. And as the state completed its session, we needed to take action to increase our adopted budget by the final state grant numbers. We aimed here. They came in a little bit more generous, so we need to add that into our state, our town aid roads. As you know, we do spend $900,000, and we bond $900,000 every year since you and I have been around to fix our roads. This is the state contribution in addition to that. Our plan is, hey, we could spend twice as much. These 112 miles of road in our town, just town roads, 112 miles. We do a terrific job. Joe and the crew downstairs, and Victor Benny right now is running around town planning on resurfacing roads now. We've done a half a dozen, and there's another dozen to do. So we are asking for this addition to make our state numbers whole with what we budgeted for.
Would we bond less now that we've got more?
No, we could spend more. We'd rather bond more. No, we wouldn't.
But I mean,
no, this is typical. I mean, we first of all, we're going to bond with the 900,000 that's already been approved, and I think the bond sale is tomorrow. So,
All right,
we're-
but let's say it wasn't.
yeah.
Let's just say it wasn't.
Could we next year know and anticipate that the state is going to come in with 200,000 or
Well-
300,000? Should we come in at 600,000?
Yeah.
You're saying that would be very atypical of what we've done for the last.
Yeah, this is more of a process question.
Yeah,
So
You could, if you wanted to.
but that's just less money to fix the roads in town, which are sorely needed.
Right, but if we already estimated we were going to need $900,000 plus,
More. We also were taking plus this
right? But
and more. But this is we knew we had a finite amount of money.
Mhm.
We could have used this.
But this
We
is
had this.
an unexpected benefit.
Windfall.
right.
It's a
Sure.
windfall to the town.
Sure.
So I think what I would be concerned about is how, now I understand that those funds have to be used for this purpose.
Has to be used for roads.
However, do we stick with the plan that, you said there's 112 miles of town roads. I don't know how much 900,000 plus whatever was in the budget covers. Is that 20 miles of town road? Is it 50 miles
Well,
of town road?
That depends on the condition.
It's
I
So-
remember
yeah.
our
So my question
presentation.
is, are we going to stick with the plan and roll these funds over? Or are you going to spend
Add
to the
another
limit?
road to the schedule this year
Right.
that might be needed instead of waiting till
Well, I
next
just
year.
would not like to see that happen if overtime was involved, if an additional resource was involved. I would just prefer to see that work gets performed according to plan.
Efficiently.
Yes,
According to plan.
according to plan. And then let's carry this money forward to the next year. We
Right.
don't want to overstaff for a windfall that we may not get next year.
So in that spirit,
Most of-
is there some kind of reserve account?
Let's speak to how the process works and what would we do with this extra money? Would we be hiring extra crews?
No.
Okay.
We have a very long-term plan. We have a very long list of what we're going to do. And the $900,000, we actually need more. I don't know. I don't know if Joe's gone through the process, but Mike G went through the whole process where we want to spend money now because it's cheaper to fix the roads that aren't in bad shape now, and we save money the long term. The $900,000 mark, that was a palatable amount. We would actually like more, but that was a palatable amount for the boards and commissions and the taxpayers to bond every year. So our plan is a long-term plan. We can add or subtract based on funding at any one time. So right now, we were thinking 900. We were like, okay, we're going to here on the plan. But it's easy enough to just go to here on the plan if we have extra money. Or
So what are you adding? I mean, if you, given your, because we had the presentation of the green, the orange, the red, I mean, what would, with this excess or windfall, it would be nice to let the board hear that, as opposed to saying, take it and put it in a reserve account. But
To be fair, first of all, you do realize this isn't part of Bill's job.
Well,
Joe
Yeah.
and Victor run the show, but I'm down there with them all day long as they're doing it. I don't exactly know what treatment it would go to.
Okay.
if I look back at the pavement management plan that was given us, and I apologize for this, it's a year old, 2014.
Right.
What we said we were going to spend, or what we could spend, in FY 15-16 was $1,289,000. You add what the state is giving us right now, the 300X, to the 900,000, it approximates $1,289,000.
That's right
We're
on-
only
that's
talking,
right on the money.
you're only talking 153,000-4,000 difference.
Yeah, well, that's 10%, Steve. That's 10%.
Right, we just want to track it, right?
But if we looked at the plan that was given us last year, it runs for several fiscal years. We projected we would need $1,289,000.
But that's not what was submitted in the budget, right?
What we had in the budget was what we thought the state was going to give us.
We made an
plus-
assumption on the state funds, which
plus-
is correct.
plus the 900,000. And I remember the conversation. We budgeted less money this year in state town road improvement than we did last year because we were afraid that they weren't going to give us the increased amounts.
Right.
Right.
We
I mean,
backed it down
personally,
on
I have no
purpose.
problem, because the roads are an ongoing issue. I think it would be nice whether Victor or somebody comes and says, okay, plus there's some history of a very long torturous winter. So I think for purposes of just educating the board and sticking to their long-range plan, it would be nice to get an update.
I don't know. I know Joe was working on that update, and I know we've been so busy down there. I don't
No,
know
that's
if
fine.
he's finished it. But like I said, we have not caught up with the roads yet. So we're still in a position where the more money we put towards the roads now, we're saving money in the long run.
Yeah, I don't think anybody debates that, Bill.
Okay.
What we're trying to just have is a little transparency and understand, because taxpayers are certainly in a position to ask, and it's our job to say, well, here, the reason we're not reducing our bonding is we're going to make deeper penetration into our road plan, and we're going to be doing this versus what we were going to do, and it's really just transparency and open
I get it.
communication.
You got an engineer that's.
And I know you weren't prepared to address this.
I will point out
But
that
based on your passion, we thought we were
I'm here.
comfortable to fire
Yeah,
these
we're
questions
comfortable
at
with you and
you.
your passion.
Right.
I'm here for you.
Okay, but go ahead.
Passionately bring this question up at lunch tomorrow with Joe. No.
Mr. Chair, I'll also point out that, as it was told to me, that the Town Aid Road funds, we are able to spend that money on salt and sand for winter projects, for winter storms.
Oh,
So,
good to know.
you know, as difficult a storm we had last year, we might be able to replenish our supply robustly with this extra money. So, but we don't. We're extremely efficient downstairs. I have that confidence in the crews downstairs and the engineers and the directors, and we're not going to pave streets with gold. We're going to continue
where
with that
they do.
efficiency. What the money that we'll be able to spend this year will be savings in the future, and then some, because we'll be doing it earlier.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of up to $178,668 in the 2015-16 budget to the following budget accounts: $178,668 to 01-30-317-500-224 Town Aid Road, and corresponding revenue account 01-03-300-301 due to adoption of the State of Connecticut budget and sent to the Board of Finance. The total amount is as follows: $156,226 Town Aid Road, and $22,442 MRSA for municipal projects to be used for roads pursuant to the receipt or final confirmation of funds.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Our final item for new business is fiscal year transfers within the budget. Anna? Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Bye, Bill.
Yeah, so this is a list of transfers that departments needed for year end. Most of them, we have some for accounts in the police department budget. We have additional funds needed in the assistant town clerk's accounts, and then the last remaining are some operational accounts for the building maintenance department.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes,
No.
since the reports that we have in our packet are drafts, can we assume that this would be the last request for transfers, or may there be more?
These were the transfers that I had on record when we were preparing for the last Board of Selectmen meeting. And so there will be another set, because when I finished with this list, any additional that came on, I started a new list.
Okay, but
So
certainly,
they'll be going to the August meetings.
it'll be a minimal amount such as this, the $10,000. There's not any huge unexpected.
You know what? I'm thinking more like 20 to 30,000.
I remember you mentioned fuel at one point. No?
That's it, the end of the year.
Well, actually, end of the year, we come in groups of like six-figure numbers. So these are lower amounts than we've dealt with in the past.
Mhm. Right. seems very low. That's why I was wondering if more was coming down the
You're
pipe.
right.
There will be another list in August.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move to ratify the departmental transfers in the amount of $10,669.55 processed for fiscal year end June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Move on to old business, which I don't think we have nothing on purchasing policies or the audit. Public discussion. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak?
I just wanted, I had made myself a note, last weekend, Mr. Putnam came to see me today, and he mentioned to me that over the weekend, they took in over $7,000 in, beach
They did.
traffic. So I just wanted to let you know, because
Great.
that's, much.
So
Thanks.
we'll be raiding his special revenue fund for more money.
Well, wasn't that a topic that we wanted to talk about on an ongoing basis, how we're going to manage special revenue accounts? Yeah. So where would we, not tonight necessarily,
Maybe
but
add it on new business.
could we tag that on somewhere so we don't forget? Because I know across the board we wanted to talk about it with the Chinese tuition issue and as programmatically how we'd like to handle those. So I'd be grateful if we could include that on our agenda going forward.
Do you want to add it like to the old business list?
Is that the appropriate place? I'm not sure.
I'd put it under new just to get it on
Under new
there,
to
and
get
then
it
we can
started.
kick it
Yeah,
to
okay,
old if we
new's good. Whatever
wanna-
y'all think.
Might be most appropriate to start the conversation, and we should have the conversation, but especially if we're talking about the Parks and Rec Department in September. Like, we only have one meeting in August coming up,
Right.
and then there's September. He'll have a clear idea of what his summer revenue was, closing out the Labor Day weekend, and we might have a brighter picture of, income potential.
So what I would also ask of you, Mark, if you would maybe just do a little homework, or if maybe you don't need to, maybe you already know, but what our policy is, why some would be, I didn't mean that in a pejorative sense. I just thought, I didn't know if you had done any research on it.
Is there
Some
a written
departments-
policy that?
One second, Beth, if I could. Is there a policy on why some departments have special revenue, some don't? How do we manage that?
Parks and
across
Rec.
the board? You don't have to do it now if you don't want. I just mean when we go to talk about it, unless you want.
It was suggested that the Parks and Rec do that because it takes so much income in, and then instead of going to the general fund directly with it, that they can use that back into their systems. A lot of times, we're setting up the budgets in February, March, April. And somewhere around September, October, someone comes to them with, hey, I'd like to start a new program. Or, hey, we have a need in our town for a new program. And they have to wait a whole year, a whole budget cycle to plug that in. So what they've been able to do is take that special revenue fund and then reinvest it back into their programming. Or ideas, or if they need a new lifeguard chair.
But we don't do that with the seniors program, right? If we collect money,
No,
and
Yeah,
they go
no,
on
they
the
have a
Right.
separate account too, but now it's all, they have the,
Yeah, speak to that.
Okay, so as we've gone through the budget processes, we have had discussions with Commission on Aging relative to including them in the special revenue fund. One of the concerns with the Commission on Aging programs is the pricing of them. Like, they do not all operate on a profit, or break even in the manner that the Parks and Rec programs do. And since the senior population, a lot of them are on, fixed budgets, more fixed income than the regular population at large, it's more difficult to increase the prices. We do every year when we go through the budget process have this conversation with Kathy Wilson, and she's some of the changes that she's making with her staffing in her department. The higher class employee is going to be expected to start some revenue raising programs to help subsidize these programs, and then we would look to integrate them into the special revenue fund. But she really wanted to wait until she had the ability to make up that difference. So this is like the way she's going to be working her staff, the way she's created the positions, is going to be working towards that
That's
goal.
great.
I think back in the days when we agreed to implement the special revenue fund for Parks and Rec, they agreed to give back to the town $10,000. Might be a good idea to look at the end of the next couple of years and say, is that 10,000 now 15 or 20? Depending upon how much money they make with the new
Is there-
beaches, et cetera. Just something to think about in the future.
Is there any written policy that was created when this was done, process, procedure, that maybe the Board of Finance can have a copy of?
And that's the homework we'll do.
Yeah, I think
Because
that would help.
yes,
Yeah.
it's pretty well documented. Dave does a good job of tracking and being transparent
the
with
initial-
it. But the initial rules
Yes,
and what's supposed to
regulations,
happen, what he's
procedure,
allowed to do,
process.
what he's not allowed to do,
Yep.
we'll bring all that.
Right, and what departments take in revenue, what don't, and I'd also like to know what other towns do. If they have similar issues, they manage them the same way, just give us a little more clarity.
Okay.
Thanks.
We kind of moved into board comments.
I have board
Beth?
comments. We have the election coming up, and I assume that everyone's having their caucuses in July,
So,
and we'll have new candidates. So I was effective after we know who the candidates are officially at the caucus, that I can notify you from my side who they are, so that the agenda, you can add them on the agenda rope, the potential candidates, so they can be sitting here and getting information and have what we have in front of us. They do that at the Board of Selectmen. I think it's important so that, there's two there tonight that are following it.
We could
aren't
only
just
assume
listening
that
to us.
they wouldn't
have
come here.
agendas and packets as well.
I was wondering why we had an audience, Beth. I
Yeah,
thought
but
who
I
on
know that
July
when I was
8th
running,
would hang out at the
I
Board
would
of
get a
Finance
packet,
meeting.
like Board of Selectmen would send me a packet, so I could sit in the audience and follow and know what's going on. In case that person's elected, it helps.
Right. The
in
fact they
learning
would even
process.
come here tonight, I would vote for them.
So I'm asking the chairman, can we have that done? So I will submit the names to the finance director and to Karen so that they're on the loop for information. So when they
Yeah, I
come to the
think-
meeting, they're not just staring at us.
I think it goes to our discussions earlier
I know
in
it's
the
past practice,
earlier in
it
the
was
year
done.
when
It's always done.
we
So
said it
just
would be
making sure
nice
we
to
do
get a
it again.
manual or something so people knew in fact what they were.
But it's been past practice to do that. I don't know how other boards handle it, but we should do that.
I
No,
think
that's
other
fine,
boards
I
have the packets in the back available. I don't think I used to get mailed for zoning, but
I-
always packets were available.
I know when I was running for Board of Selectmen, I would get a
Yeah.
packet.
It may
At
be
that
so.
time, they didn't email it, but everyone got a packet. And I think it's important for transitional purposes, regardless of what happens,
Sure.
that individual has a heads up of what are the issues and gives a fuller understanding of what the discussion in front of them. So
I think
I'd
we
like
all
to have
agree.
that done.
That's fine. I think
Okay,
we
thank
talked
you.
about the spirit of that and just
It's just
educating
process.
the transition to any person that's
You know, I don't want to
interested
use
and
big
gets
words like
elected.
transparency and stuff, but it's a process that's easy to do, especially with email.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have a comment. So I want to just review or revisit our discussion on the road grant issue. Were the situation reversed and we found out the grant was less, we would be hearing from the particular department probably that funding was short, and that would certainly have come to our attention, and we would have made a fund allocation or whatever they may need. Well, or maybe it would have been interdepartment. I just want to emphasize that if funding is increased, I just think it's important for everyone to understand whether it's a change in the plan or we're going to do more this year. I just would like us to, have that as a matter of course. I know it's only $156,000, but it's $156,000. It's our job to represent where the money goes, so our peeps in town know what we're doing.
Hey,
So,
Lisa, can I to see if this makes sense for me, which is not often, but I think what you might be saying, and Camille, and I could be wrong, is that when we're planning to do an appropriation for roads, you want it to be the number that they use, taking into consideration all these factors, so that say they needed $900,000, but they knew $300,000 was coming from the state, then maybe they should only be bonding $600,000. I mean, that's a process issue for the Board of Finance.
Yeah.
If they want to choose to go that way, they can do that in following years, unless you have. I mean, you determine.
I'm
the
okay if we use it all, but I just
Yeah,
don't, I don't
I'm
want to
just
lose
trying to
track of
understand.
where it went, because it's more.
Or you come
revenue
into the
than
next
plan.
budget season,
What'd
you
we
look
buy
back.
for it?
You look back historically and then say, we spent $1.2 million this year, right? And we go. But again, I think what makes sense is, as Steve had in his binder there, that they have a long-range plan. I think now that we have Joe, right, and they're analyzing it, another presentation to us, I think, is helpful, certainly as
Sure.
it's germane to the roads.
They work with that same efficiency and that same mind frame. There's 5 different ways to do a road, and one's the cheapest over here, and it comes out to digging up the whole road and redoing it. What they're going to do with this $156,000 is move a road or two or a piece of a road
Sure.
from next year's
Right.
budget
I'm
and
sure
move it
they
into
are.
this year's, which is only going to help us. And maybe we're only going to be doing stage 3 instead of stage 4
Yeah.
because we did
So-
it a year earlier.
And that is important for us to know.
And we'll
Yeah.
certainly let you
I don't
know.
think
So
anybody's going
that
to build a
changes.
deck on their
when-
house.
We'll
when
let
the
you-
$900,000,
I'll get you the schedule of all the roads that we're going to do, which
Yeah.
would include the
Yeah.
cost of
Yeah.
the total budget
need the
And
and the
yes.
extra
Or
$156,000.
I think if you get Joe, we'll get Joe when it's convenient with something else on here that he
I guess where
gets
I'm
us up
going
to
with
speed.
this also is I don't want to be requested to make, a transfer for, unforeseen expenditures in salt next year if we have 5 bad storms. To me,
Yep.
this is our cushion. So don't come to us next January, February saying, hey, we're short.
I
You
don't
know?
think we did this year either.
No, I'm just
You know,
saying.
just
you
keep in
don't
mind,
have-
they do manage that
No,
downstairs,
that's,
and they're
and
very
that's
good
great.
at it.
But
And
one
we
thing I
won't.
just really don't, like to hear is, well, we made a mistake. We're going to analyze what went wrong so it doesn't happen
Right.
again.
We're
So
salting
now
these
we're
really
just
nice
saying-
new roads.
Let's be proactive.
to make sure that they have to be chipped sooner or whatever they do.
Okay.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
It's been a long week.
Any other board comments? Steve and Steve?
No, thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Yes.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Our meeting is closed.
Thank you.